All right, let's hand it over to the best opinion / analysis individual as judged during the week. That is David King. Kingy, what do you got?
I think we're seeing the tougher side of Chris Fagan. I think it would have been easier for him to finish the back half of the year with Gunston and Rich in the team and just rolling on. But at round 14, he made the toughest of calls and he massaged it. So those players weren't embarrassed. And they brought in young Jasper Fletcher, and we've seen the benefits of that, and we've seen it again last night. To just put a line through Jack Payne. No nonsense.
Yep.
We know what we're doing. We don't care if the world knows. You've still got to come up here and beat us. He's out. So pick who you want to try and pick us apart or pull us apart down back. But I think we're seeing the best version of Chris Fagan right now.
I did like the when you go to the graphics and the vision on Fox Footy AFL 360, you had some excellent information around their forward stoppage work. I didn't have the sound up, but I was watching it in the studio last night. Are they playing tougher as a team as well? Like their inability to be tackled. Like they're not.
Yeah, they're bulls, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're thick bodies. They're seasoned campaigners down there now. So 11 times this year, they've kicked 2 goals or more from forward 50 stoppages. Like they're bonus goals. And I think they separate big finals, grand finals and prelims. And they kicked 4 goals in the second quarter alone from forward 50 stoppages against Port. That was the end of the game. That just breaks your heart. So that's an asset of theirs that they're clearly working on. They block for each other like you wouldn't believe. So I think their coaching has come to the fore this year.
So how do you see that midfield matchup playing out? Because if the Blues have a strength, it is there. I know they're scoring from other ways, not just from stoppage now. They're scoring off turnover, but for the last 2 seasons, they've probably been the most consistently the best and most powerful midfield, haven't they? That's enthralling.
Yeah, I think McCluggage is the wild card in there. He's not necessarily inside nor outside. He's a bit of a mix of both, and his impact on games is significant. And I think he's a must tag. I'd be tagging McCluggage before Lachie Neale. I don't know which way they'll go.
I think I'm with you on that.
Yeah. But Neil's a very important player, and I think he's had 25 clearances across the last 3 weeks, 2 10s and a 5. So he's an important player, but I don't think he's having the damage at the moment. I know he's impacted physically. There's something not quite right with Lachie because he's not bursting from stoppage. There's an opportunity there, Cornsey. You got to drive a wedge into that minute little crack that's available.
So my Friday first thoughts, and I probably know the answer to this, so it's probably a rhetorical question, but do Collingwood make an exception for Toby? What do I mean by that? Well, they're going to play to their structure. Their back 6 or 7 don't necessarily care who's there. If someone's deep, there'll be a matchup. If they go up the ground, they'll hand over. Do you want to be handing over for Toby? Because I think this guy is so smart. If he gets a matchup that he likes, if he thinks there's a weakness, he'll take them up to the stoppage. He'll then try and get in behind. If there isn't a set matchup for Toby, this guy can make you pay. So, I don't know. I'd be nervous to allow him to roam inside forward 50 or up the ground and not necessarily have an opponent, which is the Collingwood way. Do they have to send Braden Maynard or Quainer, I think it's Maynard, to Toby and make an exception to their structure, Kingy?
So if you do that, right, so you're a Collingwood player. You're Nathan Murphy, and I'm Craig McRae talking to the group. You're sitting there, and you're going to say, preliminary final Wednesday, 2 days before the game, you're going to tell me that what we've done the whole year to build up to this point doesn't work against Toby Green, but it works against the rest of the competition. Everyone else it works against, but just because this is a prelim final, we're changing everything.
Well,
for Toby.
not everyone else. I mean, they have been exposed with that structure before. Like they've had guys really get a hold of them, and this would have been a 2-week discussion. I mean, if the Giants win, and if we are coming up against them, we just are going to adjust our system. I think just because you have that plan doesn't mean you don't adjust it depending on who you play. And I'm sure they would have adjusted it throughout the year.
Not to man up. That's a big shift. To go from a systematic spatial defence to a man-on-man is a seismic shift.
It's only one shift though. You still if you can impact in the air and come off Toby Green, you would still do that as Maynard does. He's not going to have just the man goggles and the caravan on Toby Green, but I just think it is a risk to allow this guy to roam inside forward 50 with no physical attention and no direct opponent.
Now, Bucks touched on this, but I don't know if it got the coverage that it should have. So in the first final against Melbourne, the wingmen for Collingwood were pulled right back. They were almost at half back off of midfield stoppages. So the concertina effect in behind that allowed their defenders to guard deeper, if you like. So there's the 6 one-on-ones, how they start one-on-one, and then they separate from there. They were more compressed. It was a better version of Collingwood defensively.
Yeah.
They didn't get exposed anywhere near as much, and they were able to hold up against 69 inside 50s. So I think that in isolation will cover some of that space for Toby Green, and it will cover.
So that'll be
flaws.
interesting in itself. Like then what does Kelly do, or what does an Ash do, or what does a Callahan do, who can penetrate with how aggressive do they then get? So that tactical battle. I mean, these two teams are very good tactically. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. What did you make of the Blues changes?
Is 4 a lot? When I first thought, I thought, wow, hey, like sometimes being really settled going to these games is awesome. They're in good form, clearly. They're at this point of the year. But I just thought 4 changes. And clearly you're bringing Martin and you're bringing Mackay back in. I don't know, the 4 outs, I know one of them's going to be a sub, but I wonder whether that was... First thing that hit me, Friday first thoughts, is that too much of a shake-up? And I just was surprised that Owies was one of those guys. And he's a player that gets, he gets polarising feedback. But if you look at the score involvement players since round 21, Cottrell's been Carlton's most, which is amazing. Second, or equal second, is Charlie Curnow and Blake Acres. Fourth is Hewitt, and fifth is Owies. So I just wonder whether that's sometimes... Not that it gets lost on coaches, it doesn't. They see the game like through a magnifying glass. But I was just surprised.
I wasn't surprised Kemp lost his spot. I thought he probably had, I'm going to say, I watched the game again, 6 or 7 edits that were really poor. So I wasn't surprised that he lost his place. And I think Wiedering and Marchbank and McGovern can hold up. And it's really not the tools that are going to get you from Brisbane, I don't think, because Wiedering can take care of Danaher. It's going to be those smaller, more dynamic forwards that they've got. But Owies I'm with you on Owies for what he brings emotionally. So often he's the one that provides the spark. He'll give it to the opposition. He'll give it to the opposition crowd. He'll target his jumper. I love the way that he goes about it. So I know Motlop finished well and did that, but if I was going to go into a really tight, tough, contested final, I probably would have taken Owies in front of Motlop. Blues fans, his 4 changes a lot. Did you have the same thoughts as Kingy? 1300 736 736 is that IMAR Insurance open line. So just my thoughts on the new deal between the players. My first thought was it is the best professional job in the country, I reckon, when you look at the conditions that these players have. So the salary's gone from 387 in 2022 to 519. That's an average by the end of 2027. But my first thoughts were that their leave has increased. So not only are you getting an average of 519, you're getting about, and I just want to clarify this with Paul when he joins us, Paul Marsh, that is, about 20 weeks holiday if you've played for 5 or more years. That's a good deal. That is a really good deal. And I just wonder how the clubs, particularly those that are developing, I know it's been a bugbear of those, the amount of time these players gets off. Is that enough access to your players if you're giving them 20 weeks holiday? That was
So
just
from
a
a
thought.
From a club point of view, you think?
Yeah, I don't think... And I think that was a negotiation issue for the clubs, is look, we just don't get enough access to our players. Like there's Sam Mitchell, I think Ross Lyon has spoken about this publicly. It's 15 hours a week that he gets them. Then they play their last game in August. You don't see them until sort of middle of November. That's a lot of time off, and it's a lot of time on their own with distractions when perhaps they could spend some more time at the footy club.
At some point, we have to give the keys back to the players, though, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, I know we talk a lot about. I always love this. Is why I love going to pre-season training. Right? I reckon after watching a club train for 3 sessions, you can tell who's come back rock hard fit and who's come back ready to have not necessarily have a big year, but give themselves the best chance to have a big year. So I'm a bit with you. In other codes around the globe, you're the athlete. you bring your professional package back to our club
That's
environment.
true a bit, yeah. That is
in
true.
the best shape. I don't care how many weeks you have off.
Yeah, it is, and a lot of those have their own people.
Yeah.
But these are like multi-million-dollar, in some cases $500 million players. Not quite that level here, but I will ask Paul Marsh about that and ask whether the clubs.
What's the perfect number?
Well, he's like 10 weeks is enough, isn't it? Like, what elite profession gets 20 weeks? Like, it just seems extraordinary the amount of leave that they get. But anyway, that was my first thoughts. Thanks to Loop Logics, the future of construction management. It's an addition to our show that we brought in about 5 or 6 weeks ago. It's been well received. We don't hold back.
Well received. Not by everyone.
Oh, well, you can't keep everyone happy. Apart from Kenny Average, who have you got in the gun?
Can you stop saying that, please? I'll tell you who's in the gun. I was going to put Harris Andrews in the gun because I think without his right-hand man on Saturday afternoon, that will just be huge to see what he can still do, given the fact he had 4 kicked on him last time we saw him by Ollie Law. But I'll tell you what I'm putting in the gun, the bye. Because we're going to have – there's going to be something happen in the next 2 games.
Definitely.
Where it's a concussion-related or a suspension-worthy. So park suspension for a moment, but the concussion side of things, I'm just uncomfortable with if someone does find themselves in that situation this weekend, they're going to miss a grand final. And we have this bye pre-finals for no real reason. There's no real logic behind it. If we had it after the prelim final, 2-week lead into the grand final, it would just be a sensational event, a sensational build-up to the MCG clash.
The reason the bye is there is so teams don't tank in round 24 and don't rest everyone. That's so the teams that are qualified, whose position can't change, rare for that to happen. But my belief on that is that you've played for 23 weeks. If you are good enough to get yourself in a position where the last game doesn't matter and you can rest 15, you've earned that right. Now, it's not great for if a team's playing against them and that's their opportunity to go into the 8. But I'm with you on this. If there is a concussion, if there is a Harry Mackay situation, which there well could be, it's going to be devastating for that player. And it just works. It works better. You have all the awards. You get the best, freshest, fittest teams playing against each other in a grand final.
It's a showcase. This is the game that goes around the world. How can we make this the best it can be? So as a secondary, just a little addendum to that, I think in the gun will be our man, the MRO. All findings this weekend, if there is to be a line ball suspension, given what we've had to go through a couple of weeks back where he was overruled by mum come over the top and just sort of said, you're getting this one wrong, I'm sending this to the tribunal. This will be a tense weekend for our man Chris O, and we wish him all the best.
Tense week for Chris O, but if he doesn't get it right, the AFL will come over the top and make sure that their thoughts are known. We'll put that Twitter poll up thanks to Choices Flooring Design. Visualise and create your perfect floor with Room View. What would you prefer, a pre-finals bye, pre-final grand, final bye, or no bye at all? A lot of buys in there. I just want to I think Jordan De Goey owes his club in some ways for some issues that have happened for a long time. Like, this is his time to shine, and I don't think he's been in great form. I don't think he's been in poor form, but I don't think he's really grabbed a game by the scruff of the neck for a long time. 12 touches in last year's prelim final. It was a bit sore, but no influence whatsoever. Didn't score. So for him and everything that the club has stood by him for, including a couple of really embarrassing incidents, he's a good finals performer historically. I think tonight is his time to go head-to-head with Toby Green as the best and most talented players on the ground and go, right, I'm just not allowing my team not to win this game of footy. So in the gun for me is Jordan De Goey tonight, 1300 736 736. Who is in the gun? This one from Jared. Collingwood has more layers to their game than any other side. We can win it in so many different ways. Go Pies.
On that.
We've got the media experts in the gun. If you don't start putting the pressure on Brisbane to win multiple flags in the next 3 years, considering they have the best list, in brackets not Melbourne, and the crap you put on Melbourne, pathetic, especially you, Corn. Put me in the gun.
Did you give it to Melbourne, did you?
I didn't really give it to Melbourne. I've been on board Melbourne all year. I didn't think Simon Goodwin had a great...
Not all year.
No,
You were on Geelong for the first
no,
12
well,
weeks.
in
Got off them pretty
in
quick.
February. No, I stayed with them until about round 19. But no, I had a lot of faith in Melbourne. I just didn't think Simon Goodwin had a great month, and I thought his players really let themselves down with their discipline and some of their efforts in that semi-final. Kingy, what's on your agenda?
We've got a few. I'll just quickly touch on how Dennis just finished that last little interview for. I just had a chill go down the back of my spine.
Same. I did the
Thanks
whole.
for having us, Kane. All the best, David. See you soon, son.
See you soon, son. He used to call us all son.
I know, but I did like. He's
great, isn't it?
He's sharp, and there's so many little coaching insights that he can give you. The heartbreak of dropping players for finals. How you can prepare your team, and his insights into what would be going through the minds of Chris Fagan and Craig McRae with the lack of football and how they prepare their players, but how you're holding your breath and getting that balance right. So, I mean, we'll post a link on our Twitter page and you can catch up if you missed it on the podcast, but he's magnificent.
There's been a couple more nominations for his horses too. Dancing with Your Sister is
like
one.
it.
And I'll just clean this up a little. There's something about down my back and tell me it's raining. Now, on my agenda today, it's fortune or fail this weekend. If you feel like your year comes to a grinding halt if you're losing a prelim, such momentum, such positivity, everyone's up, everyone's about, the supporters are going crazy, and then bang, it's over. Mm-hmm. And you're not part of next week. You're not part of the ultimate. Whether you make it, win a grand final or just make it, it's a huge success. I think it's the worst weekend for AFL players to lose, regardless of whether you lose by 20 points, 1 point, or 100 points. It's all fortune or fail this weekend, Cornsey. How do you see them? How do you see them unfolding?
I see it the way that everyone probably sees. I don't see an upset. I just think Collingwood will find a way. They've been the best team all year, and the crowd's worth 3 goals. So you could go into it split, and the numbers would say it's a 50-50 game, but you can't tell me that crowd isn't worth 3. It's like kicking with a 3-goal breeze for 4 quarters. That's how So I think that just may be the difference, and that's why top 2 for the home and away season is so vital. And I think that will be the case for these two. Like at one point, Brisbane were going to finish 3rd, and it was going to be Port Adelaide finishing 2nd. Would that have changed everything if they came to Adelaide? They probably still would have been too good for Port Adelaide, but just the work that you do throughout the home and away season has these teams in a position to benefit from the home crowd, and that may just be the difference. That's how I see it. But I've been wrong. I got 0 from 2 last weekend, so don't take my word for it. I hope there's a surprise, but I just don't see it. Just on my agenda, I watched half of the Danny Laidley documentary on Stan last night, and I thought I'm gonna have a look at this. I'll have a look at this, and the overriding thing there's a lot to take out of it, and it's heavy, and there's a lot in it, and you probably don't feel. Well, I was going to say you don't feel great after watching it, but there was a moment where I did feel great, and I thought, how lucky are we to be involved in the industry? Because there's a moment where she goes to Adam Simpson's house in the documentary, and Spider Burton is there, Peter Bell is there, Daniel Pratt is there. So teammates and people that have clearly been influential in Danny's life, and she just opens up to them. And to see the response from the group, I thought this is awesome, because the average person perhaps that is going through something similar isn't supported by a footy club and teammates and really influential people that can understand you and understand what you're going through. So what I would just say is I recommend watching it. I think if you love football, because I didn't have a great relationship with Dean at the time when he was an assistant coach at Port Adelaide, now Danny, and I've got a different perspective on why now. I mean, we had a couple of run-ins. Yeah, we had a couple of run-ins, and we were a really ordinary team, and there was it wasn't a full-time role, so the commute back and forward, and we butted heads a little bit. But I've got a different perspective on that now. So anyway, if anyone's thinking about watching it, I would recommend it. And it's a terrific story, I think, and one that is, in the end, uplifting. Not to say there's not some really sad moments involved in that. Kingy, this is unusual, but you want to change sports for the agenda?
Hey, mate, we love the Melbourne Storm down here. You've got to get on board.
I'm on board. I'm on board.
You're on board? You're a subscriber? They play the Panthers. Tough challenge. They've won the last 2 flags. They're going for 3 in a row. Your boys.
That was my tip, wasn't it?
Halfway through the year.
Yeah.
So that's one you got right. And I just love this football club. It's never say die. The odds are stacked against them. They shouldn't be winning. They're $5 outsiders. But you know what? You just never ride off the storm.
Never know.
So I
with
just
the
want
storm.
to put that on the agenda for tonight. It's 10 to 8 start. It'll be a cracker.
I saw my man Warwick with the try last week. It was a highlight, wasn't it? That's his name, isn't it?
Your man. Who got it?
What was it? Warwick? Warbrick. There you go.
Yeah.
So
Not bad.
Not
Well
nearly,
done.
nearly. It's a difficult surname to say, but he's got a great story. I mean, he's got an AFL background. You could tell with that try that he scored. So didn't mind that. Hopefully he can do and produce that again. Good luck to the Storm. Just the final agenda item for me is we spoke to Paul Marsh about. I did have a giggle about the increased media access for players and how it will work and how strictly it will be enforced. So part of the new CBA is that there will be increased access to players for media and broadcast via a new broadcast policy to be introduced. All AFL players in the 23 named from the week before will be available to the media in the week after the match. What will be the possible sanctions if someone has a stinker or someone gets reported or someone is involved in a squirrel grip incident and they don't want to speak to the media the week after? Is there any punishment or not?
I just like where you start these conversations.
Would Toot Miller have been available for media after the squirrel grip incident?
But that's a good question.
Yeah.
That is a good question.
I don't know.
I like that. That's your starting point. Look, it's been very difficult to get access to a Dustin Martin for years.
Yeah.
I just think that it's going to be tough because everyone is going to go after the same 3 or 4 players.
Mm-hmm.
So how you spread the load, how you balance that out, is that just a cost of getting the extra cash that they've put their hand out for? I don't know how it'll work, Kane. I just reckon it'll be so tough on so few.